I am Dr. B.K. Deshpande, Associate Professor, Department of CSC, Cambridge Institute of Technology, Kyarpuram, Bangalore. Today's topic is SJF, scheduling algorithm. It is shortest job first CPU scheduling algorithm. We need to consider the job or process which takes less time to complete its execution. That means we need to consider the burst time of the process. So mode is non-preemptive. What does it mean? The process which is being executed by the processor, we cannot take out till that particular process is going to complete its execution. Now come to the problem. In the table, first three columns of the table, okay, the column headings are process number, arrival time and burst time, okay, that are given in the red color. Process number basically signifies about the number of processes P1, P2, P3, P4 and P5, and arrival time are already given, P1s 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4 respectively, and burst time is 7, 1, 3, 2 and 6. What is the question? We need to find out average waiting time and average turnaround time of the processes. Okay, by looking at the burst time, okay, burst time, 7 is the highest burst time of process compared to other processes. Okay, P1's burst time is more compared to other processes, but its initial time or its arrival time is 0. It is compulsorily you have to schedule in the Gantt chart, so that afterwards the SJF, that is shortest job first scheduling algorithm, is going to be applied as far as CPU is concerned. But we need to consider the arrival time of the P1 because 0, okay. The P1 is scheduled in the Gantt chart. Gantt chart is a horizontal chart basically which represents how processes are going to be scheduled for the execution, right? So P1 arrival time is 0, that is starting time in the Gantt chart, and 7 which is completed, that is the burst time. We can also call it as a CPU time 7, we have to mention it here. Next we have to compare, or the CPU is going to compare with the help of this algorithm, so that it is going to consider the less burst time. What is the less burst time? So that P2's burst time is 1, P3's burst time is 3 and P4's burst time is 2, P5's burst time is 6. Obviously the burst time of the P2 is going to be scheduled in the Gantt chart. That means 7, it is the burst time which is also completed as far as P2 is concerned. So you have to add, okay, 1 corresponding with the P2 burst time, 7 plus 1, okay, 7 P1 is completed and the burst time of the P2 is 1, 7 plus 1 is 8. Next P2 is over. Next P3, P4, P5 we have to compare it, so that P3's burst time is 3, P4's burst time is 2, P5's burst time is 6. Again P4's burst time is less compared to P3 and P5, so that P2, P4, okay, P4 is going to be scheduled in the Gantt chart. That means 8 which is completed, P2 is completed, okay, 8 plus 2, okay, 8 plus 2 is 10 scheduled, P4 is scheduled. Next remaining processes are P5 and P3 and P5. Now P3 is how much? P3 is 3, burst time of the P3 is 3, P5 is 6. So that obviously you have to consider P3's burst time. That means 10 plus 3 equals to 13. Okay. Afterwards, P5 is remaining. Its burst time is 6. 13 because which is completed. P3 is completed. Okay. 13th unit of time. 13 plus 6, that is 19. That means P5 is going to take till 19th unit of time. This is how you are supposed to schedule the process when the problem is given by looking at the burst time of the each process. And also you have to consider the shortest burst time. Only in the first row, as far as P1 process is concerned, we considered only arrival time in the beginning, that is compulsorily. Okay, 0th time of the execution. Next, completion time. How to find out the completion time? CT stands for completion time. So that you have to again see the Gantt chart. 7 is the unit time of the P1 process. You have to mention 7 here. Next, P2 which completes at 8 units. 8 you have to mention in the column. And P3 which is completed here in the Gantt chart. 13. Okay. 13 you have to mention here. P4 is completed in the 10th unit of time. You have to mention here in the completion time column. Next, P5 which is completed here in the Gantt chart, 19 unit of time, right? So afterwards you have to find out turnaround time and waiting time. Turnaround time can be found out by CT minus AT, completion time minus arrival time. Completion time of the P1 is how much? 7. Arrival time of the P1 is 0. 7 minus 0 is 7. Next, completion time of the P2 is 8. Arrival time of the P2 is 1. 8 minus 1 is 7. Next, completion time of the P3 is 13. Arrival time of the P3 is 2. 13 minus 2 is 11. And completion time of the CT is, completion time of the P4 is how much? 10. And arrival time is 3. 10 minus 3 is 7. Again, completion time of the P5 is 19. 19 minus 4 is the arrival time of the P5. 19 minus 4 is 15. So this is how you have to find out the turnaround time. Waiting time, again the formula is turnaround time minus burst time. Turnaround time of the P1 is 7. Burst time is 7 of the P1. 7 minus 7, 0. Next, turnaround time of the P2 is 7. Burst time is 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. Again, turnaround time of the P3 is 11. Burst time of the P3 is 3. 11 minus 3 is 8. Again, turnaround time of the P4 is 7. Burst time of the P4 is 2. 7 minus 2 is 5. Again, turnaround time of the P5 is 15. Burst time is 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. Okay, this is how you have to find out the waiting time of the each processes. Now, what is the question? Average waiting time and average turnaround time you have to find out respective to the process. Okay. So, average waiting time should be calculated by adding all the individual processes waiting time. Okay. 0 plus 6 plus 8 plus 5 plus 9, okay, divided by 5. It comes around 5.6 unit time. And average turnaround time should be calculated by adding all the turnaround time of the each processes. Okay, 7 plus 7 plus 11 plus 7 plus 15 divided by 5, 9.4 unit time. This is how you have to find out the average waiting time and average turnaround time using the shortest job first scheduling algorithm. I hope you